and he's not going to be able to get back.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Fire away then, Steve.
Yeah, so just, James, maybe as you said, just that little bit of understanding for me. Maybe the thing that that you might want to explain. Firstly, clearly the business has been going for some time, but maybe with that, the LED shins and that relationship and how that sort of is in the business. I did notice that when I was doing the search, and so maybe give a bit of an expansion upon that side of things.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we've been going to China for a number of years. Me in my previous business, but also Jim has been going to China and working with different companies and going through that very early stage where you muck up a couple of times and then you find decent suppliers, and we've gone through all that. I met Lydia probably about 9 years ago at an exhibition for digital screens in Global, not Global Shop, one of the LED things in Canton. It was Canton Fair, and we got talking, and she started to look after us from a supplier point of view, and then we decided that maybe we should offer her a job. So about 7 years ago, we had Lydia on board with us, and not officially working, but doing quite a bit for us. And then about 4 years ago, we decided to open a company, which is what they call a woofie, which is a Chinese Western company, but it doesn't have Chinese partners. So part of that whole deal is Jim and I started the company. We own 100% of it. We've got some KPIs for Lydia, and she'll own 20% once she gets to that certain KPI.
Mm-hmm.
And we've now been operating, a few years with her, and she's a godsend. I tell you, she's our ears and eyes in China, and she knows so much about LED screens.
Mm-hmm.
George and I were talking to her yesterday on this other Zoom. We were doing a factory tour. She'd gone into a factory and she's taken us around this factory, and she gets very things well prepared. So, and now we've got another girl that works with her, who's learning the ropes, and we've done a lot of different types of procurement. We did all those digital guns that people put up against your head. We did 4,000 of those for McDonald's and KFC.
Right.
We end up doing PPE equipment for masks, and because we do digital, we have a license to export digital out of China. But because these guns were partly medical and partly digital, these temperature guns, they gave us a medical license as well, so we can export anything medical now.
Right.
I don't want to be in that field really, because it's a bit, it's another whole different ball game. But we can import things like non-surgical masks and hand sanitizers, and just things like that we can bring in as we see fit. We got in early on the bandwagon, made a couple of dollars on that, and now masks and hand sanitizers, everybody's got them. So so that's what we've done.
Able to move quickly on. So just so I understand, so the supply chain is clearly you're able to buy it at a highly competitive price. You get it. They come in shipping containers into Australia. Is that right, or do they just go straight from China to where people are ordering, or do they come to you first and then you?
It varies really. With McDonald's, we shipped it to their general cargo warehouse where they have here in Sydney, where everything goes there, including food.
I was thinking more for the digital displays normally. So how?
Yeah, well, they come straight to us.
They come straight to you. Yeah. Okay.
We have a factory. We have a warehouse. Which we do a bit of. We've got some machines in there to do a bit of construction with on our screens, but it's a warehouse that can take us, a number of containers worth of gear as we bring them in. But we tend to order bespoke, so we will order as we need it. We don't hold huge stocks of anything, because this this technology is changing so fast, as we all know, and so we.
And so what does bespoke kind of look like? Because I know you've got the two main sort of retail and real estate industries. So would you then have, say, a Barry Plant says to you, okay, we need to get this type of digital display. Can you order us, or what would you recommend? And we need to get 150 of them. I don't know. Is that how that sort of plays out, or
Yeah, we
what's the
can do.
normal
Yeah,
way?
there's many ways you can do it. I mean, we go from one-offs to 1,000 off as we need it,
Yep.
and George and I are working on a project for one of the major fast food companies, and we're looking at outdoor waterproof digital screens, and we've got a big meeting with the group next week, and we've organised a tour of the factory. We've got screens being tested in the weather in Shenzhen. So, but Lydia organises all that for us, and but when Jim can go back to China, which we can't get back quick enough, he's got a lot of contacts there, and he's built a lot of good suppliers there.
Okay.
And he really drives Lydia probably more than what I do or anybody else, but we use her as our sounding board for many things. Lydia, can you get a circle LED 1.9? She'll go and find it. Or can you go and find digital guns? She'll go and find it. Anything to do. You got to understand with Shenzhen, it's all electronics in Shenzhen.
Yep.
Right. It's there are other facilities, but it's mainly electronics of some description.
And so, one last thing around that sort of supply, is it generally you writing a project out to people and you're approaching them, or do you at times find that you're looking for tender opportunities or quote type things? Do they happen as well, where you're actually sort of filling a demand?
See the two wonderful people underneath, Sally and George.
Yeah,
that's what they do. They go out and look for opportunities and bring them in for pricing, and they can be anything digital really. We don't have any qualms about what we price.
Sure.
Every job's a job,
And so clearly you've got a bit of an unfair advantage around that sort of knowledge and person in China. And is there any in Australia? What does it look like in terms of the competitive landscape? Is there many others with a similar advantage?
There are. I wouldn't say with similar advantages. There are people buying maybe some third parties out of China. Some people do go directly themselves to China, but I think we've got something pretty unique with having. I think George would agree on that because he's been around the traps a bit with having Lydia and have our own organisation in China.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you come across a company called?
Actually, it is quite. Let me jump. Look, I've known the competition for quite a while now, and I believe Lymlive is the only company that has an actual company in Shenzhen, which is a huge strength.
Yeah. Okay.
We see the competitors buying from Chinese, but they buy from usually Chinese agents.
Yep.
Well, they end up paying, but by all means, they get good products, but they end up paying much more than we do.
Yep.
We have flexibility, we have the knowledge and the expertise, and this is quite an important. To a certain degree, some of those competitors come to us to ask to supply them with solutions.
Yep.
So that's the.
This is us here in Australia. We're the only ones here in Australia.
We have a.
We're not there yet, Sally. We'll mention that later.
Yeah. That gives me a good overview. The other thing I was just going to ask: are you familiar with a company called Nplug by any chance?
Nplug. No.
Nplug. Yeah.
No.
Just a few years back, I did a little bit of work in terms of setting them up. The Australian and maybe Australia. What was it? They were into Malaysia maybe as well, but sort of the Australasian sort of arm of Nplug is an American company, but they do digital signage, but it's a lot of the software sort of stuff that goes behind it. And basically, so that in other words, if people use a hashtag Lymlive then basically when they've got their digital signage up, it just means there's various things, whether it's, from a social perspective, it's of interest to me, because if you're putting content out, then there's certain software that's behind it that actually can mean, you can put all sorts of things on there anyway. But I just thought I'd mention that. I had worked with them a number of years ago, but they were investing a lot. It was a pretty big company, and they finished up spending a lot more on. I don't know that they're doing too much in social now, but
I've never heard of it. No.
yeah. Anyway,
just one more, Steve.
Yeah.
One more thing, Steve, on that is that we write our own software too. So
Yep.
we've been that's another feature that we are pretty unique with. A lot of the suppliers or competition buying off the shelf products, but we I mean, you got Mandoe who got their own. You got Engage who's got their own, but there's not many people do what we do. We've got 3 IT people, 2 coders, and we were able to adjust our content, our IP to suit the client's needs.
Yep.
For instance, with the one for the petrol stations, we were able to do a touch screen solution for them, but so it was a white label solution. So we're able to do that, and that gives us an advantage too. Because if a client wants, as one client asked Jesse, George and I had a bit of a laugh about it. He asked, "Can you put 3 videos on one screen?" And we probably can, but my question to him was, why? Why would you want 3 videos on one screen?
Yep.
But so you get all those requests that come in, and because we've got our own IT people and it's our own software called Iris, we can adapt it to suit many things.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, I have got another meeting at 11, so let's make it that we work through. Are we okay if we sort of let's work through to about 10 to 11? Does that sound okay by you guys?
Yeah. No, you it's all yours.
That sounds fantastic, but that's been really good. That does give me a much better idea of the business. Clearly, I can find so much when I'm looking at you online, and you get one particular sense of things. But it's good to have that sort of deeper knowledge, perhaps, just so that I can, when I go through that, at least I can ask you a few more questions, perhaps. Look, the first thing we do, and it really, it doesn't matter whether it's a business like yours or really a micro and small business, right, is that we actually just put in and see what actually comes up when we put the name in from a brand perspective on search. One thing that kind of interests me from a Lymlive Media is that it doesn't appear a highly competitive sort of space around digital, the digital screens and that sort of stuff. We only put your name in terms of, we didn't even put Lymlive Media, but there isn't any ads running above you, which is a good thing. There is a Google My Business, but I'd suggest no one's really using it because it's asking me whether I own this business, whether I want to suggest, and there's just the one Google review, right? So it suggests there's probably maybe someone has. Do you know if anybody has keys to this in the business? Do you guys?
Yes, Andrew.
Yep, you do. Okay. So it's kind of not being activated really. So that's the sort of thing you should be perhaps sharing your, your, for the customers, just asking them to, perhaps provide a review, that sort of thing, and providing imagery and other updates potentially on, because it's good that you've got it, and I'd expect a business like yours to have it, but it may be that you could do a little bit more around it. The LinkedIn company, this might surprise you, actually comes up as your second most highest thing in as far as the social medias, then Facebook, and then you sort of move down. And in actual fact, your Twitter actually comes up down here. So I was actually quite surprised that your social media actually appeared in search, given that you're not overly active on those spaces, right? But just so you know, the power in many ways, whilst we don't use social for search purposes, it still has search benefits. Does that make sense? Right? Because they're still assets and they are online assets. So you're best to make the most of those assets.
Right. I didn't know we had
Retail
a
Doctor
Twitter
Group.
account.
Retail Doctor Group is a what? Could you tell me a little bit about them?
Retail, yeah, I know the Retail Doctor very well. He's a guy who lectures on the future and interesting items about retailers and retail. and he's got a magazine he produces, Brian Walker.
Well,
And
clearly, yeah, Brian Walker, I'm connected to, and I'm sure I've met him at a franchise type event at one stage.
And he's put us onto his web.
Yeah, that's right.
His,
Yeah.
as
So
a free of charge.
yeah. So it's just so you know, it's interesting that would appear so high up in a way. Why have I got so when I go and print this, it's quite slow loading, isn't it? That video. I don't know if you find at times your web sort of. Do you find that that's quite slow to load to this website?
Yeah, we know that. And
Yeah,
it's due to the movie, which George hopes to have that resolved probably at the end of this week. And
the thing we look at, and whilst we know that there's a video that comes across here, right, and we also know, in fact, I might actually go to the website rather than look at it here. Hang on, give me 1 second.
Is that the car video that's got to load?
Yeah, it just depends. I find that sometimes it goes reasonably quick, other times it can be fairly slow. And when I go and try and print the screen, it takes too long to load the part. So here we are. That was reasonable, right? What I just wanted to talk to you about here is, they say a picture says a million words. I would almost argue, I've got this on my bigger screen, right, so that you can see this at the moment. This is your $1 million space, realistically. It's your real estate, right? So we do expect to see Lymlive Media up here in the top, your logo. This is kind of your positioning statement, that you do transparent LED displays, right? So that's kind of the only thing I kind of get. There's not a lot of call to action on here, is there, right? In terms of, there's a contact us and you can message us. And yes, I can see you've got solutions up the top here, but you're kind of making me work a little bit. It's not to say that, on the one hand, it looks great. I love this video. It's a great video. I just wonder whether there wouldn't be a better way of sort of using some of this space, right, in terms of the web person. I don't know if you did Sally tell me at one point that you were looking at the website and maybe how it configures. I'll talk to you a little bit how we think the best space and use of space might be on a website, but we're lazy, right? So we're just typically lazy. We'll go to a site like this and we kind of want to immediately find what we're looking for, right? In terms of, I think a lot of the stuff is down here, right? So I like this, right? I like this stuff. Hence when I printed it off, easy to use, update from anywhere, screens of every application, 24/7 monitoring. But I don't know. Have you got any feedback yourselves around how you find the website? What you think? Whether you think it's an asset.
I've had some people say to me,
we're doing the website right now.
You are?
We have a new version that's nearly ready, and the good thing is the new version will be based on Wix, so it's easy for us to update wherever it's Sally or someone else.
Yeah.
It'll be easy to add new pages, new products, and like a blog version. The idea is to keep it more dynamic.
Any reason why you went Wix, not WordPress?
No, Wix. Wix is much easier, and we recommended Wix. And Wix is very easy. Look, Wix is actually based on WordPress.
You can do everything we'd suggest to do on Wix. Wix is a little bit. It's like when people tell me that they search on Yahoo. It's a bit like WordPress is to Google what Wix is to kind of Yahoo, if you know what I mean. You're kind of using an alternate content provider in a way. But anyway, it's not to say, as I said, you can do all the same thing. And even for me, I just give some feedback around that, because for me, it's around social proofing, right? So again, the main thing is at the moment, there's nothing to suggest this business has any socials, right? I don't know if, we know that you do. Sometimes people put it right down the bottom. You don't put it anywhere, right? So in a way, this is a business that suggests we'll tell you about ourselves, but we're not really interested in you giving us any sort of a two-way dialogue or feedback, right? So what we would always suggest, just by way of an example, any of our clients I could go to, right, is that basically, how do you contact us? And yes, we're a social business, right? We've got, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we've got Twitter, we've got Google, we're on YouTube, we've got our channels, and you can find them easily, right? But when we click on this, it doesn't click over the top of our website. It goes to a new thing, right? Because we want to tell them we're on social, and you can find our socials, but we don't want them to click over the top of our website and lose them to social media, right?
I understand. Yeah.
And then the other thing is, it's a good way of then sharing. I think this will work if I go down the bottom here. Sorry, bear with me. You can also add a little plug-in down the bottom, and you will be able to do this on Wix as well. Is basically that just has news feed, right? It shows what are we currently sharing? What are we talking about? What's our latest products? What are people saying about us? That sort of thing, right? So these are called social feeds, and we can put them, and we just suggest you put those on as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but there's certainly improvements you can make to the website. Sounds like you're on the way, but certainly in a planning session, I often suggest those certain things from a social media marketer's perspective. I'm not a web person at the end of the day. I just suggest what you might want to consider adding as by way of plugins, pixels, and feeds, just to add extra weight to the website, right? Does that make sense?
And I have had a comment from a client recently that when they went onto the website that they thought that we were actually in the car industry here. I don't know if
that
that
could be
is that sort of, we've become like fish. The problem is they say we spend 9 seconds, 8 seconds,
Close
looking at
mind,
something.
yeah.
And if we can't get exactly straight away, that could be somebody that's not taken that extra time to kind of go and look at the other things.
open-minded, yeah.
Yeah. I actually thought, James, yours is the best thing I found on your social media, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's great.
I actually thought this was pretty good. There's still stuff I'd like to do with for you and with you to make sure that you're even more. You could build out this, right?
Who's that handsome man there? Who's that guy?
Yeah, so
Is that me?
very handsome. And look, this to me, anything social, anything online, real pictures, real imagery works best.
Yeah.
This says to me, knowing what you do, I thought this is a good choice of image, and you stand out of the page. As I said, there's just a bit more that we could talk about the products in this is your really online business card. So whether it's Sally, George, or James, you'd want to have the maximum use of that 250 characters, I think it is. And that is, again, another thing that makes you and the business just searchable for the things that you do, right? So this is a good start. You're about 75% there, right? We talk about how you best use it as well. But yeah, this was good, James. I really liked the way you're presenting yourself. And I just looked at yourself, given you've been involved the longest, rather than Sally and George. As far as the company, there was some work that needed to be done just to update the details.
And there's a mistake. You see, that's the one we're trying to.
And you've basically got a spelling mistake in there. But also the point is you're actually not active, right? So your 7 month was the last post when I went and had a look, right? So in our strategy, we kind of use a daily posting strategy. Just
But I post all the time, Sue.
yeah.
I'm posting all the time.
On yourself, yeah, for James. But
not onto the business one.
Yeah, so
okay.
yeah. So in fact, that helps us help you, James, by what you're doing. But the cheap thing that we do is we post to the company. All you then need to do is like or engage with that post, and it shares it to your network. So Sally's partner Roy is very active on LinkedIn personally, right? It's great, but it creates that personal brand, whether it's James or Roy. But it's not necessarily fabulous for the company, right? Because it can actually make you look smaller, right? And you're not a small company. Basically you've got, significant business interest, right? So it's about making the company and the people involved look bigger and consistent in the branding. And unfortunately, that's the other thing, that at the moment you have a lack of consistency across these, even in the logos, right? So there's a lot of logo sort of stuff, and I think this is again the video, right? This is that I've taken here. Is that correct for the Facebook page?
This is a cheap photo on the.
Oh, it's a cheap photo that sits in the cover.
Cheap photo, yeah.
So not doing you any favors.
We have some really good content and some videos that we can share with you.
Yeah.
Now, how are we going to log into this one to change that spelling error? Because I think James.
I need to do that. Yeah. I need to log into that one.
Log in and just change the password.
Yeah. I will also share with you the beta version of the new website. The content is absolutely not relevant, but just to give you just a new perspective on the look and feel. Okay, so you can judge.
Yeah.
Everything with design, George, to easily change it.
Yeah, I think that sounds good, because that'll help me, because that means I can give you some early feedback as well, George, and probably some inclusions that would go on that as well.
Yeah, that'll be
George, can you just send it to Steve, and we'll go.
That's no problem.
We haven't got much time, and
that's it. So then the other thing was, so Instagram. the Instagram, again, it's just there's just a lack of consistency across whether it's messaging. This actually needs completion, right? The details in here. I have a feeling Instagram and Twitter may well have been done about 5 or 6 years ago, and then someone
I
dropped
think it
it.
was, yeah.
Right? Yep.
I
So
don't
a
think
lot
I
of
did
stuff
it.
got dropped, and we just need to recreate and redo in a revised way so that you actually get the benefit of it, right? Your Google My Business, I was mentioning to you before, you should be sharing this link that you can actually get from here. So if you've got customers and clients that you've done a good job for, then you should share this particular link so that they can write you a review on Google if you wish to do that. We have a particular software platform that you can use. We charge about $20 more than we pay for it ourselves. So that's something down the track you might want to consider, as well as how do you get feedback from your clients, and that feedback then helps you generate reviews as well, whether it's to Facebook or to Google, just so you know. It's called GatherUp. So that's something you might want to consider. Your YouTube channel is has been done, but again, it's just not complete, right? So you should have covers up there. You should have about details, and clearly not been overly active. I don't know where that latest video might be. Anyway, that's the review. There's a lot of I would say to you, there's the framework exists for what you have. It's just a matter of really refreshing, rebuilding, recreating those, your brand on those 6 channels, particularly, so that you can get the benefit of them, right? It's a bit like doing a house, doing a rebuild. It's just to make sure that it actually makes it all up to date, and the timing might be good in terms of with the new website coming on board as well. So,
so are you saying for us to put like a like we need to put like a Twitter header and we missing like a LinkedIn header and a Facebook header and all of those kind of things?
I'll talk through that in a second. So basically what we're moving towards, this is just showing you what we need to work with you on. So we have a 3-hour plus 2-hour session that we do with you, right? Yeah. And this is taking a while to load this part here. I think I may have shared this with you last time.
Yes, you did.
So maybe I'll just very quickly talk about the strategy, right? So the Wix website that's being created, we would want to be using imagery and words to repurpose that on a daily basis to your social media, right? All of these social media will have been revised and revisited and rebranded, right? Realistically, with a consistent brand and image, right? So that if you're on Twitter, that's Lymlive Media. If you're on Instagram, the same, right? So it's all the same company, and it's all integrated back to that website, right? Where you have all the icons and that sort of thing. But that's the strategy. You take content from here. All your content is to go on here, whether it's testimony, imagery, gallery, blog, all that sort of stuff should really be housed here. So in other words, when people come to me and say, "Oh, Steve, we've got this new product. Can you share it?" I'd be going, "James, Jim, or George or Sally, where is it on the website? I need to be able to find it so I can reshare it and put it across," because it doesn't matter whether it's an advertised post or whether it's just a daily educative post, right? I want to be able to find it on the website, right? I need to be able to find things on the website first. And then that's the strategy. So given we have touched on this previously, is there any questions around the strategy?
No, I understand that. So what you're saying, a website should be built to take all these things, so it then links to Instagram, YouTube, and everything else. So we have to do a lot of. And where does that sit on the web page? Wherever you want it to be, I suppose.
Well, I think you've already got it. It's not to say that you're light on that at the moment. You've got plenty enough for us to get on with and manage a project like this, right? But what you're telling me is that you're only going to get better and more improved content and information put on it, right? So you've got plenty enough content for us to be getting on with. It's just the reality is you probably can't sit on it. You're probably going to need to continue to consider what else do we need to put the fact that you were doing the thermostat gun thing, right? So I don't know how that was an opportunity you found. If we were working together at that stage, I would have been saying, awesome, let's let people know about that, right? So let's put it on the website. Let's make sure there's a product specification, and I'm going to share it, and we might even then put ads behind it on the social media as well, so that we then get the benefit in all sorts of ways, and so it adds layers to your marketing communications. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so then I'll just talk about. So today's session, as I think I said to you last time, today is just. So firstly, I better go up here, right? Firstly, it doesn't really matter who we're working with. The first step is to make sure all of these 6 social media websites reflect. So these are our objectives, right? So they should be a really valuable asset to your business brand, right? So we want to recreate, revise those. So as I said, we spend 3 hours doing that with you. Whoever's sitting in the session, I never mind whether there's one person or 4 people. It doesn't worry me, right? If you want to sit in the session when we do the setup and planning, but as I said, the setup is about getting these social media sites on brand. We want to differentiate you. You mentioned a few competitors, almost guaranteed bugger all of them would be using the 6 in a powerful manner, right? So the idea is we want your brand, business, and representatives to feel proud about the brand that they're representing, but also be quite visible compared to your competitors, right? In other words, we want to then do posting around so that you're top of mind, not just with the people that already know you and have received a proposal from you or are already following certain pages, but the people that we advertise to. So we sit in that planning session and we go, who's the target audience, right? Who is the people that are normally buying these products that you're wanting to sell, right? And so it's I think, George, you raised the questions last time. It's a little bit like the way that Google people use keywords. We use key audiences. So we just go, okay, who are your typical customer, right? And then what do? Are they C-suite? Are they, are they people like, well, we know they're retail, right? They're retail and they're real estate. So we try and get to the people in retail and real estate, primarily, I'm imagining. And then ultimately, the proof in the pudding is: are we retaining more customers? Are we getting more customers? Right, and that's what the whole thing is about. Audit and consult. Yes, I'll send you an invoice today. If I don't ever hear from you again, then you'll get an invoice from me. If you then come back to me and say, well, let's do a setup and planning session next week, then basically, or the week after, whatever suits, then basically we waive that fee, even though you're kind of verging on the bigger than small business. But anyway, I'm happy we'll waive that fee. But then the 5-hour day that we have is, as I said, a $935 one-off. But we do spend 5 hours together going through, making sure that everything is updated. So Sally, I often say to people, don't be worrying too much. Yes, go and fix the word media in the LinkedIn, but we'll be putting the similar about detail or why us type detail on all of the social media. You'll all have
Yeah, sorry. And for that, do we have to have templates for the banners and stuff, or you got that already?
No, because your about and why detail should already exist on the website, right? It already exists on the old website. So we use that information. So you just have to be fairly concise. And all of the imagery we use is real imagery. So you would have, I imagine, whether it's video or otherwise, we don't put any, and it's a good question that you raise, right? So you will notice with Roy and Out There Branding now, we don't put any branding over the top, right? Yeah. Because social media, as soon as you do that, it suggests you're trying to sell me. And selling is repelling on social media, right? It's all about building relationships, we do still try and, we're a part of the sales process. We're trying to get them, but we want the website or the phone to be the sales agent. So when they speak to Sally or George around about, actually, how are you going to do this for us? You're going to make the sale. I'm going to contribute to them getting there, right? That's the idea.
I understand that, but you said that like the Twitter and the Instagram and all that had been like 6 years, hasn't been touched.
Yeah.
Do you look at the template layouts to see that it's all all working together?
We'll go through that on the day, and basically we just put the same. We put the. I imagine, has the logo changed? Is this the logo you would use?
No, it's changed.
Similar to this one, yeah.
Yeah. So we need. I would suggest to you that so if you got a similar logo, we need a square 300 by 300 logo, right? And I put this checklist to you guys, right, so that you know. We need, as George said before, yes, we know you've got video that you could use for the Facebook, but most of them use a static photo. So I would suggest a really good static photo that you could use across your social media, right? So and sometimes people choose to do a montage. So you might choose to do, a 4-type image, maybe something to do with real estate, maybe a few examples of retail. So you could do that. But I'll send you that. So the main thing we need, it comes in a checklist before the day. And we often have to tell people, don't ready the checklist. We're going to do it on the day. But there are a couple of things that you need to do before the day. You need to have the logo that you're going to use, and you need to determine what's the cover picture you're going to use. They're the two main imagery things. And then the other thing is, as you raised, Sally, is, what short about do you want to have for people? Because we don't have time on the day to be doing copywriting, right? We need to, on the day, what is the about for this organization? Does it already exist on the website, right?
Yeah.
But remembering on social media, it's all about newsfeed. It's not about creating just 6 more websites. Yes, we're doing that, but it's all about getting into the newsfeed of your customer and potential customer, right? So, so we'll give you a checklist about that, but it's not onerous because we work through it on the day. And even where people haven't created that, we create it with them. It just can eat into our time a little bit. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
then covered in the next steps.
This is what I was hoping. Thank you.
Yeah. So, so that's the once-off stuff, and then pretty much from the day after, we're in a position then to manage a business like yours. I wouldn't be suggesting that you do a Monday and a Friday. So in other words, every second day post. I would suggest you do a daily post, right? Basically to get into the feed of the people that are already up.
really?
So in other words, that's our 374, and we report monthly, as against a every second day post and reporting bi-monthly. Right,
so we
that's
post every day across all sites.
Across the 4 social media networking sites. Yep.
Every day, excluding Saturday, Sunday.
Excluding Saturday, Sundays, and public holidays. Yeah.
And public holidays, and then you report monthly.
Correct.
Okay,
exactly.
got it.
And we're reporting on basically the insights that we're giving is around how many people are we reaching, how many people are engaging, and because of the Facebook pixel, what's the traffic looking like back on your website? So that's our version of analytics, right?
Okay. So Steve, you also be able to recommend us the budget that we should invest into the social media.
Facebook, yeah. Well, that's another good question, George. So all of our clients, the reason we set our prices the way that we do is because we don't want you to skimp on advertising, right? So, but that advertising goes straight to Facebook, which owns Instagram, and we recommend most people start with no less than $5 a day, right? So from a budget, and so many businesses will spend significantly more than that. Just so you know, whether businesses are only spending $5 a day and only doing one sort of type of ad campaign, I think we have between a 5% and a 15% media buy, right? So in other words, if you spend $1,500 on advertising, then over the year we'll send you an invoice at some point, 6 monthly or whatever, for 15% of what your ad spend has been, right? But yeah, in terms of recommending, for a business like you, we test to start with, right? We do probably $5 awareness campaign, $5 engagement, and perhaps even $5 towards web clicks through as well, right? But we would mix that up. So the budget we spend, we'd probably do a third, so that we get the benefit in all ways. Yeah. So
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that one too. Yeah, that's kind of good. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to give you a quick, I will send you a link. So Sally and I, before joining Lymlive, we used to work for one of the major competitors, but also was actually a buyer of Lymlive services.
Yep.
And this company invested a lot of money on social media, and they're really good on social media. I'll give them all the credit. Their budget before COVID was anywhere between 40 to 50K a month.
Yeah, right.
On social media. Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't have the firepower.
Yeah.
But I will have if you Google them, you will see the ad popping up on your Facebook feed because the remarketing is remarkable.
Yeah.
And I think there's some good ideas. I don't want to replicate what they're doing.
No, we're not that type of company, though.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, to be honest, once people do get into that where they're just really advertising hard, I get to a point where I kind of think businesses like that they're often paying, as you said, not only are they paying for the advertising, they're often paying an agency at 10 times what we charge, right? So for me, the expectation is completely different when you're spending 40 and 50 grand a year on your ads.
But we're not Mendoza, though, George. I mean,
but certainly,
James, I'm not here to spend 50K.
But I understand what you're saying. It certainly sounds like this. For me, I'm a competitive beast, right? For whoever we're working with, I want to make sure that your social media is certainly. I know there'll be areas will be better than them. I just know that, right?
Yeah.
But I also know if they're spending a lot in ads, I also know the best way to probably get better value than probably the way that they're spending their money on ads. I reckon.
They're not mind-blowing.
What I'm saying is that it's interesting to look at what they've done in terms of the way they advertise, and I think it's very clever.
It'll be advantageous. Yep, no, that'd be good. I got to go, guys. If there is, I have got a recording of this for Jim. I'll send that through. Have a chat amongst yourselves. Let me know if and when you would like to proceed. Generally speaking, just so you know, Tuesday, Thursday, or Fridays are our best days, if that works for you guys, right?
Okay. Well, we have
that order. Yeah.
We have a joint meeting on Monday. We'll discuss it on Monday, and we'll come back to you. But it all sounds good to me, and I think we'll be hitting the button pretty quickly on this too. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, James. And thanks.